It was a quiet afternoon at the clinic when I met William, a recently retired university professor who entered my office with tense shoulders and a restless gaze. As a urologist specializing in men's health for 15 years, I had already treated countless patients with similar concerns. But something about William's demeanor caught my special attention. "Doctor," he began, adjusting his gold-framed glasses. "I never imagined I'd be here. I've always been a healthy, active man." His voice trembled slightly before he continued. "But lately, since I turned 60, my body doesn't seem to respond the way it used to." I listened carefully as William described his concerns. As a physician, I had witnessed countless times the emotional impact that physical changes can have on the lives of mature men. William spoke about changes in sexual function, a decrease in libido, and a growing sense of disconnection from his own body, common symptoms of aging that, unfortunately, are still treated as taboo in our society. "Emily, my wife," he hesitated. "We've been together for over 30 years. We've always had a very close relationship, but now..." William paused, searching for the right words. "Now I feel embarrassed, unable to maintain the same intimacy as before." As I listened to him, I realized that William represented a significant portion of American men who, upon entering what is called the third age, find themselves confronted with physical and emotional changes they were not prepared for. Our society celebrates youth in such a way that we often neglect preparing for the natural aging of the body. "William," I began, carefully choosing my words. "First, I want you to know that you are not alone on this journey. The changes you are experiencing are natural, and, more importantly, there are various ways to deal with them." I saw his shoulders relax slightly as I explained the natural process of male aging. I talked about hormonal changes, especially the gradual decline in testosterone, and how it can affect various aspects of a man's life, from body composition to sexual desire. "What's happening to you isn't a sign of weakness or that something is wrong," I explained. "It's a natural transformation that can be managed with the right support." During our conversation, William began to open up more. He shared about his routine as a university professor, how his recent retirement had affected his self-esteem, and the quiet fear of losing the special connection he had always had with Emily. "You know, doctor," he said, "Emily has been very patient, but I can see that she's also struggling with this situation. Sometimes I catch her looking at me with concern, but I can't bring myself to talk about it." At that moment, I proposed something I often suggest to couples in similar situations: Emily's participation in the next appointments. "The journey you are beginning does not have to be a lonely one, William. In fact, it can be an opportunity to strengthen your relationship with your wife even further." I explained the importance of a holistic approach, which would include not only medical aspects but also lifestyle changes, specific exercises, and, most importantly, openness to honest dialogue with your partner. "How about we start with some basic tests?" I suggested. "This way, we can better understand how your body is functioning and develop a personalized plan for you." I saw a glimmer of hope in William's eyes when I mentioned the possibility of a concrete plan. As a doctor, I know that offering a clear path is essential to helping patients overcome their initial fear and start taking positive steps toward change. Before concluding our first consultation, I made sure to emphasize a crucial point. "William, aging is not just a process of loss. It may actually be a period of great discoveries and positive adaptations. Many of my patients report that after going through this initial phase of adaptation, they discover new forms of intimacy and connection they had never explored before." The following week, William returned to the office accompanied by Emily, a woman with a serene presence and attentive gaze. As a specialist in men's health, I always consider it a special moment when couples decide to face the challenges of aging together. "Dr. William told me about the previous appointment," Emily began, her voice soft but firm. I admit I had wanted to suggest seeking professional help for some time, but I didn't know how to bring it up without making him feel diminished. The mutual affection and respect between the couple were evident. In my years of medical practice, I have learned that long-term relationships like theirs have their own dynamic, built over decades of shared life. Any intervention must respect and work in harmony with these established bonds. Emily, I began, your presence here is crucial. Often, the changes that occur during aging affect not only the individual, but the entire family system, especially the couple. During the consultation, I proposed an open conversation about the changes both were experiencing. William, more comfortable than in the first session, shared his insecurities about sexual performance and the fear of no longer being attractive. Emily, in turn, revealed her own journey of adapting to the transformations of middle age. Sometimes, Emily admitted, I feel like we're growing apart not because of the physical changes themselves, but because of the silence that has settled between us. It's as if we've lost the ability to talk about our intimacy. This moment of vulnerability opened the door for an important discussion about communication and expectations. I explained how hormonal changes can affect not only sexual function, but also mood, energy, and even the way we process emotions. What you're experiencing is an opportunity for rediscovery, I emphasized. Many couples find that this period can be a catalyst for deeper intimacy, which goes beyond the physical aspect. I presented them with some initial strategies. First, I suggested specific breathing and relaxation exercises they could do together. Then, we talked about the importance of regular physical activity and a balanced diet, essential aspects for sexual health at any age. William, I addressed. Him. The tests we conducted show that your changes are consistent with the natural aging process. There are several therapeutic options we can explore, but the most important thing right now is to establish a solid foundation of self-care. Emily smiled, holding her husband's hand. We've always been partners in everything in life, she said. There's no reason for it to be different now. During our conversation, I mentioned a support group that met bi-weekly at the local community center. It's a safe space where couples share their experiences and learn from each other. Explained. Many participants report that just hearing others going through similar situations brings great relief. William seemed hesitant at first about the idea of the group, but Emily showed immediate interest. We could at least check it out, couldn't we, dear? She gently suggested. Before we ended the consultation, we established a concrete action plan. In addition to exercises and lifestyle changes, I prescribed some natural supplements and scheduled a series of follow-up appointments. Remember, I emphasized, that each couple has their own pace. There is no single manual for dealing with the transformations of aging. The important thing is to keep the dialogue open and be willing to explore new paths together. I saw William and Emily leave the office hand in hand, their postures lighter than when they arrived. As a doctor, I know this was just the beginning of a journey that would require patience and dedication, but I also knew they had something precious in their favor: each other. As the coordinating physician of the support group, I always get emotional seeing new participants arrive for the first time. William and Emily entered the community room with hesitant steps, but they were immediately welcomed by the warm smile of Mrs. Bernice, a longtime participant who had a natural gift for making everyone feel welcome. Come, sit with us, Bernice invited, pointing to 2 empty chairs in the already formed circle. The welcoming atmosphere of the community center, with its soft-toned walls and motivational posters, provided the perfect setting for our bi-weekly meetings. That evening, the group was especially lively. Robert, a 65-year-old retired businessman, shared his experience of how he had overcome his initial resistance to hormone therapy. At first, I thought needing medical help was a sign of weakness, he admitted. But I learned that taking care of your health is actually an act of courage and self-love. I noticed William adjusting in his chair, clearly identifying with Robert's words. Emily, beside him, listened attentively, occasionally giving her husband's hand a gentle squeeze. The hardest part, Robert continued, was accepting that I needed to change some habits. Quitting smoking, starting to exercise regularly. But my wife Margaret was crucial in this process. We turned this journey into a joint project for a healthy life. Margaret, sitting beside her husband, added, "At first, I also had to learn to deal with my own insecurities. I thought his difficulties were somehow my fault. It was here in the group that I understood these transformations are natural, and that we can face them together. As a doctor, I always emphasize the importance of this exchange of experiences. Technical knowledge is essential, but emotional support and identifying with similar stories are equally valuable in the process of adapting to the changes of aging." Mrs. Lucille, a 70-year-old retired teacher, shared her perspective. "I discovered that intimacy goes far beyond the physical aspect. My husband and I developed new ways to show affection and care. Sometimes, a foot massage before bed or a long hug brings more connection than anything else." I noticed Emily give a small nod of agreement, while William listened with increasing attention. It was clear how the shared stories began to resonate with their own experiences. "Here, there are no judgments," I explained to the group. "Each person has their own time and way of dealing with changes. The important thing is to keep an open mind to new possibilities." During the sharing, other couples shared their strategies. Breathing exercises practiced together, dance classes, couple meditation. Each story reinforced the message that aging, when faced with proper knowledge and support, can be a phase of discovery and renewal. "One of the greatest lessons I've learned," commented Mr. Frank, a 68-year-old retiree, "was about the importance of patience, both with myself and with my partner. Sometimes the anxiety for immediate results only made things worse." I complimented Frank's statement by explaining how stress and anxiety can negatively impact sexual function and overall health. "It's crucial to understand that every small progress should be celebrated. We're not trying to go back to the past, but rather to build a more satisfying and suitable present for our current reality." At the end of the session, we held a brief, guided relaxation exercise, a practice that always helps integrate the shared experiences and conclude the meeting in a state of greater serenity. I saw William and Emily say goodbye to the other participants with lighter smiles. "You know," William commented to me before leaving, "I never imagined there were so many people going through the same thing as us. Somehow, that brings a lot of relief." Emily completed, "And it's inspiring to see how each couple has found their own way to deal with the challenges. I'm already looking forward to the next meeting. As a doctor and facilitator of the group, I know this is just the beginning of a transformative journey. The most important thing is that William and Emily had taken the first step together, opening themselves up to new possibilities and perspectives." 2 weeks after the first support group meeting, William and Emily returned to my office for a follow-up consultation. As a specialist in men's health, I am always pleased to observe the small changes that begin to emerge in the couples I work with. "Doctor," William began, his tone more confident than in previous consultations. "We started implementing some of the suggestions we received in the group. Emily and I joined a specialized gym for seniors." Emily smiled, adding, "At first, William was reluctant, but after the first week, I noticed he started sleeping better. And I confess that I'm also feeling more energized." As a doctor, I explained to them how regular physical activity not only improves blood circulation and hormone levels, but also releases endorphins, contributing to greater overall well-being and self-esteem. "We've also started practicing those breathing exercises you taught us," William continued. "Sometimes before bed, we do them together. It's a peaceful moment we've created just for ourselves." It was rewarding to see how the couple was embracing the tools provided and creating their own routine. "And how's the diet going?" I asked, knowing this is a fundamental aspect of sexual and overall health. "Oh, that's been quite the adventure," Emily laughed. "We started going to an organic farmer's market on Saturdays. William, who has always been resistant to vegetables, is now even trying new foods. During the appointment, we reviewed the follow-up test results. they showed a slight improvement in William's hormone levels, likely a result of the lifestyle changes he had started. It's important to understand, I explained, that these changes are gradual. The body needs time to adapt to new routines and treatments. The key is to maintain consistency. William nodded, sharing an interesting observation. You know, doctor, I've noticed that the less I obsess over performance, the more naturally things flow. I think the conversations in the group have helped me realize that I'm not alone in this journey. Emily added her own perspective. We have been rediscovering other forms of intimacy. Sometimes, we simply stay embraced while listening to our old songs. It's different from how it was before, but no less special. As a healthcare professional, I always emphasize the importance of this rediscovery of intimacy in its various forms. Touch, eye contact, words of affection, all of. This is part of a healthy and mature sexuality, I explained. During our conversation, I introduced some new therapeutic suggestions, including sensory massage techniques that could help strengthen the couple's connection. The goal is to reconnect with your own body and with your partner, without pressure or expectations. In the group, Emily commented, one of the participants mentioned how she started practicing yoga with her husband. We were thinking about trying it out too. Do you think it's suitable for our age? I explained how yoga can be an excellent complementary activity as long as it's practiced with proper guidance. There are even teachers specialized in adapting practices for mature individuals. The benefits range from improved flexibility to increased body awareness. Before we ended the consultation, William shared a reflection that particularly touched me. Doctor, I've always been a man, very focused on reason, on control. I was a university professor after all. But this process has taught me the importance of listening to my body, of accepting that not everything needs to be explained or controlled. And that has made all the difference in our relationship, Emily added, looking affectionately at her husband. I see William more present, more open to dialogue. Of course, we still have our moments of insecurity, but now we know we can count on each other. As a doctor, I know that every couple has their own time and path of adaptation. The important thing is to maintain regular follow-ups and the willingness to make the necessary adjustments to the treatment as needs change. Keep up with the physical activities and balanced diet, I recommended. And don't forget to celebrate every small progress. The secret lies in consistency and patience. I scheduled our next appointment for 3 weeks later, enough time for the new practices to settle in a bit more. I saw William and Emily leave the office hand in hand, their steps lighter and more in sync than during the first appointments. 3 months had passed since William and Emily began their journey of rediscovery. As a specialist physician, it is always rewarding to follow the progress of patients, especially when they embrace the process of transformation with such dedication. During one of the support group meetings, William surprised everyone by taking the initiative to share his experience. When I first arrived here, he began, adjusting his glasses with a characteristic gesture. I was feeling completely lost. It was as if my body had become a stranger. Emily, seated beside him, smiled while holding his hand. The bond between them had visibly strengthened over the weeks of treatment and participation in the group. But something interesting happened, William continued. The more I accepted the changes, the less they frightened me. The sessions with the doctor, the exercises, the new diet, all of this started to make sense as part of a natural process. As the group coordinator, I noticed the other participants nodding in agreement. Many there identified with William's journey, recognizing their own fears and achievements in his words. The most surprising thing, he shared, was discovering that there are different forms of intimacy. Emily and I started practicing yoga together, as suggested here in the group. At first, I felt awkward, but gradually those moments became special for us. Emily then spoke up. You know, sometimes we think we know everything about each other after so many years together. But this phase showed us that there's always something new to learn and discover. During the meeting, other couples also shared their discoveries, Mr. Robert and Mrs. Margaret talked about how they had resumed the habit of dancing together on Sunday afternoons. Mrs. Lucille shared how she and her husband had transformed their home garden into a joint project, creating a new space for connection. As a doctor, I took the opportunity to explain how these shared activities contribute not only to physical health, but also to emotional and hormonal balance. The body responds positively when we allow ourselves to experience new forms of pleasure and satisfaction, I clarified. One of the greatest lessons I've learned, William reflected, was about the importance of communication. Before, I kept my concerns to myself, thinking I was protecting our relationship. Today, I understand that sharing vulnerabilities brings us even closer. Emily added, the breathing and relaxation exercises we learned here have become part of our routine. Sometimes when I notice that William is more tense, I suggest we do things together. It's amazing how these moments help us reconnect. As a healthcare professional, I explained to the group how these practices positively influence the nervous system, reducing stress and anxiety, factors that often impact sexual health and overall well-being. Another important aspect, William added, was understanding that we are not alone in this journey. Every story shared here brought a new perspective, a new way to face the challenges. During the meeting, we also discussed the importance of maintaining a self-care routine. Emily shared how they had reorganized their diet as a couple, including more natural foods and reducing the consumption of processed items. At first, I thought it would be harder, she said, laughing. But we turned it into an adventure. Every Saturday, we go to the market together, try new foods, and research recipes. Even William, who was always resistant to changes in his diet, now surprises me with suggestions. As a doctor, I emphasized the direct connection between healthy eating and vitality, explaining how certain nutrients are essential for hormonal balance and sexual health. But perhaps the biggest transformation, William reflected, has been in how I view aging. Before, I saw it as a process of loss. Now I understand that it can be a time of discovery, of new beginnings. By the end of the meeting, I realized how the group had transformed into a true space of support and growth. Every story shared, every small victory celebrated, contributed to creating a crucial support network in this process of rediscovery. In our last follow-up consultation, I welcomed William and Emily with the satisfaction of someone who had witnessed a true journey of transformation. As a physician specializing in men's health, I had already dealt with many similar cases, but each story of overcoming brings with it a unique lesson. Doctor, William began, his posture noticeably more relaxed than during our first appointment. When I first came here, I was solely focused on the limitations that age had imposed on me. Today, I realized that this perspective was extremely narrow. Emily, seated beside him, nodded with a serene smile. It's been a journey of discovery for both of us. We've learned to communicate in ways we had never explored before. During the appointment, we reviewed William's latest tests. The WIC. Results showed significant improvement across various parameters, reflecting the changes implemented over the past few months. The numbers are important, I explained, but what matters most is how you feel. How is the new routine going? You know, doctor, William replied. I never imagined that at 60 years old I would be practicing yoga, changing my diet, and joining a support group. But each of these changes has brought something special to our lives. Emily added, yoga, especially, has been a wonderful discovery. It's not just about the physical exercise, but the connection we create in those moments. We've learned to respect each other's pace, to breathe together. As a healthcare professional, I explained how these integrative practices contribute to healthier and more mindful aging. The balance between body and mind is crucial at this stage of life. One of the biggest surprises, William shared, was realizing that intimacy goes far beyond the physical aspect. Emily and I rediscovered the pleasure of simply being together, of exchanging caresses, of talking without hurry. And what about food? I asked, knowing that this had been one of William's biggest initial resistances. That was a real revolution. Emily laughed, William is now the one who reminds me to buy organic vegetables. We even started growing some herbs at home. We created a small garden on the balcony. William explained how the change in diet had positively impacted his mood and energy. At first, I thought it would be a sacrifice, but I discovered new flavors, new textures. It was like awakening a different kind of sensitivity. As a doctor, I emphasize the importance of these discoveries. Every new healthy habit we adopt contributes not only to physical health, but to our overall quality of life. The support group was also crucial, Emily added. Being part of that network of people, hearing other stories, sharing experiences, it helped us normalize many of our concerns. William agreed. I remember a specific day in the group when Mr. Robert shared how he and his wife had overcome challenges similar to ours. That gave me renewed hope. During our conversation, we discussed the next steps in the treatment. The important thing now is to maintain consistency in the positive changes you've implemented, I advised, but without excessive rigidity. The secret lies in balance. You know, Doctor, Emily reflected, sometimes I think this phase brought an unexpected gift. It forced us to stop, to look at each other more carefully, to rediscover our relationship. William took his wife's hand in a tender gesture that had become more frequent in recent months. I've learned that growing older doesn't mean losing the ability to feel, to love, to connect. In fact, it can be an opportunity to deepen those feelings. As a final recommendation, I suggested that the couple continue participating in the support group. You have already become an inspiration for other couples who are starting this journey, I commented. It's rewarding to be able to give back the warmth we received. Emily smiled. Every story shared in the group has helped us build our own narrative of overcoming. As I concluded the appointment, I watched the couple walk away hand in hand, their steps synchronized, their postures exuding a quiet confidence. As a doctor, I know that each case is unique, but stories like William and Emily's reinforce my belief that aging can be a time of profound and beautiful discoveries.